Are you having trouble getting into the holiday spirit? Well, have I got the episode for you? I just had the pleasure of interviewing my cousin and child life specialist, Keeley. She talks about her career and working in children's hospitals and where she's at today, and just really all about how she positions herself and her mindset and her outlook to always seek the joy and always bring the joy. She's a Christmas fanatic. We'll talk about that. She's actually a COVID bride too, so she's had quite a year, as we all can imagine. We've all had a varying degree of crazy go on in our world. So, man, if you're looking to get in the holiday spirit, you better check it out. Is that a dress? What you got on there? Is it like
It's
a
a
get up?
jumper
Oh my gosh.
with pockets. I know. Yeah, I got it from Target, and apparently this year oh gosh, the bell. Apparently this year they have new ones too, so I'm gonna have to stock up.
I've been rocking the same ugly sweater for like probably 10 years now.
I love it.
Doesn't smell great, but it matches my antlers.
Yeah, I like
Have you on here?
well, I'm excited to be on here. Christmas is one of my favorite things to talk about, so this is super fun.
When did you guys decorate? Have you had your stuff up for a bit?
We have, so, we moved into our new house about, I think, 3-ish weeks ago, and all of the Christmas stuff was part of the stuff that we, brought down here in boxes. So I convinced David that it would be more trouble to put that stuff up instead of just unpacking everything. So we have 3 Christmas trees up now. Yes, I'm loving it. So almost everything is decorated pretty much.
That's awesome. I like in my friend group, I was always like the Christmas nerd, but I think you like completely just like blew it out of the water.
Well, I think that my work at the hospital definitely inspired me to love Christmas a little bit more and just enjoy and take in all the things that the holiday has to offer. And so from there, I feel like it's kind of just been contagious. Since leaving the hospital, a lot of the girls that I worked with have texted me and just said, like, thinking of you. Today I got a text from a coworker. She was wearing Christmas shoes. She's like, thinking of you. And I'm like, see, it's contagious. Love something that brings people joy, and then it just kind of spreads around.
It is. I love that you said that because like one of the things that I heard recently that I really liked and that resonated with me is like be the person that brings the joy. Like if you can't find the sunshine, if you can't find the joy, like bring it. Like be the one that provides that to the people around you. And just like getting to know you, we've only known each other for a few years now, but I feel like you are like the epitome of bringing that joy. And like I look up to you for that because like I said before, I always thought I was like the festive girl and brought the house down with being joyous through the holidays and just being positive and optimistic. But once I met you, I was like, man, this girl, she's got to figure it out.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's very sweet of you.
Yeah.
I think just in the hospital, I worked as a certified child life specialist. And so the holidays obviously can cause a lot of stress if you're in the hospital setting. And so we got to do just that. We got to bring the joy. We brought Santa room to room, and we delivered those Christmas gifts that those kids had waited all night for. And so just getting to see that joy in a different light, and it was something different than I had seen before growing up and celebrating Christmas, really inspired me that, hey, let's do this big every single year and spread this joy all of the time. And so that is definitely where my love for Christmas just even grew even more.
Oh, I believe it. And after I first met you, Keeley, and I got to meet all your friends at the hospital too, I think you girls are all just so special, and it made me very interested to learn more about kind of like your career path. And of course you were all perfect for the job that you do, but it was just really special to get to know you and your friends and really get to vacation with everybody and have a good time. But just on that topic, can you tell us a little bit about what you studied and what you did at the hospital and now kind of where you're at now with your career?
Yeah, of course. So I am a certified child life specialist. I personally think it is the coolest and greatest job in the world. It's kind of like a little secret that I feel like a lot of people don't know about. But for my schooling, I went to Louisiana Tech University, and they actually had a child life program there. So to be a certified child life specialist, there are 10 required courses that you have to take. They're mainly about child development, disease and diagnosis, and just working with children in stressful situations such as the hospital. But from graduating from Louisiana Tech, I decided to continue on with my education, and I went to Texas State, and there I majored in child life. And to be a certified child life specialist, you also have to complete a practicum and an internship. So that's where you get your clinical work. And I did my internship at Children's Health in Dallas, and then I worked there for 5 years. So a little bit about what a certified child life specialist is. We help promote coping in the hospital. So we do this by providing education, preparation for procedures. We develop coping plans with patients and families. And we do a lot of variety of different things, but one of them is also normalizing the hospital. And so that's where celebrating the different holidays comes into play for that part. So our whole job is just to help decrease stress and increase coping. But from that, I now have transitioned into a new role. I am the child life instructor and program coordinator at Louisiana Tech University. So now I get to instruct and motivate all of the child life students at Tech. And it's just crazy because I was just in their shoes, almost 7 years ago. So it's really cool to be in a different role and give back. But yeah, it's great. I love it so much.
And it's awesome to just hear you talk about it because you light up and it's something that truly you're passionate about. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about just finding what you're passionate about and pursuing it. And I think that for you, you've really found something that allows you to reach your potential and spreading that joy. And I love to just kind of the way that you described it, in that it's normalizing the hospital, it's normalizing the situation that we're in right now, and kind of holding on to what we can control. Is that kind of some of the dialogue that you'd have, and can you give a little bit more about kind of some of that dialogue you might have and how to normalize that situation? I'm curious.
Yeah, of course. And so we meet with a lot of the patients in the hospital, and sometimes this is their first admission, or it could be a reoccurring admission for a chronic patient. And so let's say we're going in and a child is going to have an IV. We provide that step-by-step preparation for them. And so that way they understand and they know what's going to happen, because obviously the fear of the unknown, I think a lot of us have experienced that these past several months, can be overwhelming. So for a child, if we're able to provide that education for them, then they have a sense of control and mastery over the situation. And I really liked how you said that you got to meet all of my coworkers, because I think that when you're in a job of, providing a service that helps promote normalization or coping, you kind of have to be that person that is always on and brings that joy. And so I've been very blessed and lucky to surround myself with a group of child life specialists that do just that. They do that in the hospital setting and even outside of the hospital walls through our friendship.
That's so cool. And I can attest to that for sure. And I just realized I didn't even introduce how we know each other, Keeley.
Oh, so that's right. Yeah.
My cousin. She's my cousin.
Yeah, that's my cousin.
So Keeley married into the family. You actually in March, right?
Yep, in March. Yeah, that's right.
So, and that's funny because that kind of leads us to our next topic. So, and you even just alluded a little bit to how over the last few months, we've all kind of like a wrecking ball busted into this whole world of uncertainty, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
we had like January came, we're like, oh, this is my year. And then, I set goals for the year and I landed my dream job. And then next thing I know, it's March and the whole world, kind of stops for a moment and says, oh my goodness, 15 days. And then it's like, oh no. And I think at the time with the 15-day thing, you were like, well, my wedding's in 8 days. So what the heck does that mean? So yes. I am curious for you, Keeley, just with knowing your outlook and your optimism and all that you bring to, your career certainly translates over to your life, I would imagine. And how did that look for you this year?
I wish I could say that I handled that whole process with a lot of grace, but I think that there were some days that were more challenging than others. I know for me and a lot of other girls out there, we spend a lot of time prepping and planning our wedding, and you have a vision of how it's supposed to go. And so when you find out that there is something that's out of your control, that is affecting this big planning event that you've dreamed of, it definitely takes a toll on your emotional self. So actually the week that we were supposed to get married, that Monday, our governor in Texas said no more than 50 people at an outside gathering. So my husband David and I started to panic a little bit, probably me more so than him. I'm thankful that he was kind of my sounding and saving grace during that time. But so we decided, okay, 50 people, we'll have our closest friends and family. We won't have it at the venue anymore, but we'll just have it outside at his family's house and it'll be okay. So I came to terms with that, started doing my own coping techniques. You always say that you can't child life yourself. So I was thankful to have a lot of supportive friends during that time that really were like, are you taking deep breaths? Are you counting to 5? But then that Wednesday, we found out, I think Wednesday or Thursday, that we could only have 10 people. And so that is when a little bit more panic started to happen. I started blaring Christmas music, going to my happy place. And then it kind of it was one of those things, you saw everybody coming together. I had a coworker bake a cake for our wedding. David's family worked tirelessly trying to arrange all the flowers because the florist wasn't able to cancel. So we had bukus of flowers for 10 people. And everybody was just coming together to try to figure out something. We had people staying up super late, making a playlist. And in those moments, I looked around and I realized, like, this is what the wedding process should be about. It should have, everybody coming together to support you. And it doesn't matter if there's 200 people there and a rockin' DJ with a smoke machine. It more so matters that David and I are getting married and we'll be surrounded by the 10 closest people that love us the most. But with that being said, I've talked to a lot of COVID brides and they're like, how did you do this? And I'm like, but it took, there was a couple of days where I had a lot of worry and doubt and frustration and should we just not even get married? But, through that week, I saw everybody handling it with more grace than I, and that was contagious to me. And so I'm very thankful that we got married in his aunt's backyard and still did the thing, because here we are 7 months later and, we're still in a similar situation. But with that being said, a lot of COVID brides have reached out to me, just like asking, my opinion on certain things. And I said, like, if I would have known what I know now, I would have just done it with 10 people in the backyard all along. It is true. It was very special and intimate and sweet. And I just wish I would have known that during the stressful time, for sure.
So much of what you just said is so good, because I remember, Keeley, like, we did the bachelorette party, everything was fine. And the next thing we know, I remember seeing, like, I think it was 10 days before your wedding, perhaps. And you had this huge binder and you posted this picture, like, we've thought of it all, like, everything with this binder and there's literally nothing that could go wrong. I don't think you said exactly those words because you might have cursed yourself a little bit if you did. It was just like, all systems go. Let's get this, let's get me married. So I think that you certainly did all, you had all the excitement, you had all the preparation, you had everything that you needed in order. And then life just kind of throws you a curveball. And then of course you're going to have, like, man, this sucks, right? Like, this is not in my binder. Like, there's no pandemic tab in my binder. Right? But I think the way that you described it, you were like, I had my moments where I was like, man, how the heck is this going to work? I had my friends to child life me. I like that. I'm going to add that verb to my vocabulary. And then you focused on being in the moment. It sounds like you were like, oh my goodness, look at all these, like, my friend baked me this awesome cake. And, we're figuring out how to make these flowers work. And the pictures are beautiful. So nobody would have seen the struggle behind the scenes. Right? So I think that perspective is so helpful, right? And that was in the very beginning when you were just like, oh man, the brides next month are going to get their wedding, like, but no, everybody's kind of having to now follow suit. So it's cool that people are reaching out to you like, okay, you're my girl, like, what do I do here, right?
Yes, for sure. I'm so thankful that so many people came together to help us celebrate, because without them, I don't think that we could have done it. And so that's always been my advice when people reach out, is like, those people that are asking you, what can I do for you? Can I do this? Can I make this? Tell them yes, because that makes it so much more special too. When David and I were eating the cake, he looked at me and he was like, this is really good cake. And I'm like, I think it's better than the cake that we would have had, and so it's just, it made it that much more sweet.
Cool. We're all going through crazy stuff this year, right? And something like that happens where you had a plan and you had the idea of how it was going to go. And I think a lot of us are experiencing that this year, whether it's on a very small scale, like I had a 30th birthday and maybe that was supposed to be this whole thing, or, my job isn't going the way I wanted it to, or I've been furloughed, or, just there's such a variety of suck, for lack of a better word, this year, that I think it's the silver lining is that we kind of all can relate in some way, right? I don't think there's ever been a time, at least, in my recollection, where we all could really sit down and say, wow, we all, we're all kind of in this together in some way, shape, or form. So I think that your perspective, your optimism, your outlook to then, when you said to, like, if somebody offers help, accept it. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Sometimes that's hard to do, but it's like, no, this is going to be really neat. It's going to be a story. You're a COVID bride. You've got that tag with you for life. Right?
Yep, that's right.
So
and now it's like, already been 7 months. And so for me to sit here and be like, hey, it was okay, really says a lot. So
yeah,
I agree.
That's awesome. This is something a little off topic, but since we're talking about the pandemic, I was curious if you have, so in my training sessions, we've started to do a little bit of live training, which is exciting because everything's been virtual. So it's been like a little weird, but it's been working so far. And one of the questions we've been asking our learners is like, what's new that already feels normal? Is there something like about the pandemic for you that already feels normal? Like, is it masks? Is it, it's like, I was just curious if you had anything like silly or funny that you thought of that you're like, I already this doesn't feel that weird anymore.
I would definitely say that the mask wearing feels more normal. So I was working in the hospital up until October. And so we would always just joke and say, like, it's a new part of our accessory, because we always say, we come to work with our scrubs, our badge, and a smile. Well, your mask was just added on there, and it was just something that, you did and you put on every day. I also think that doing a lot of things virtual has been, kind of like my new normal, which has been nice because David and I moved from Texas to Louisiana during the pandemic. And so, just keeping up with that, maybe we wouldn't have thought to Zoom with people as often. And now it's like, oh yeah, let's just hop on Zoom and see someone. Right. So that's been really nice and more of the new normal for us as well.
I agree. And I think for some, like, it kind of bridges some of those gaps, whether it's generational or just technological gaps that exist with people that didn't grow up with technology, or, maybe were hesitant to embrace it. I mean, personally, I'm horrible with technology, so it's really forced me, like, my livelihood depends on me being able to run a Zoom meeting effectively. So I think it's kind of cool that, like, now our grandparents know how to click a link and get on Zoom, and a little bit more proficient than me, honestly. Like, it's cool to see all those things that have kind of resulted in a sort of silver lining.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's connected a lot of people that maybe you wouldn't have connected with before.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the other things our team members said when we asked that question, like, what's new that already feels normal, was like not hugging people, which that one, I love to hug, so that one hurts me, but it's true. You're kind of like, oh, and you do your little.
Yep.
Another one they said was not knowing what people's faces look like. Like, have you had that situation where you're just like, I see this person every day and I really don't know, like, I couldn't point them out in a lineup?
Yes, for sure. We had child life students come on during the pandemic. And so when I became social media friends with them, I was like, this is what you look like?
Oh,
so yeah. Yes. So yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, for sure.
I thought of one this morning too that's like super weird, but I have started to, whenever I recall a story like from the past, I picture the people with masks on. It is the weirdest thing, and I wonder if I'm alone in that, but it doesn't happen all the time, but every now and then I'm like trying to recount, like, oh, last time I was here, like, such and such was, at the counter, and I'm like picturing the mask, or like I ran into this person at the mall and I picture them with a mask on. It's like really weird. I don't know if there's like some psychological term for it, but I'm like basically masking everybody in my past right now, and it's very strange.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, for a long time now we've been wearing masks, so there's probably a lot of people that I've seen with only masks on. So yeah, it's crazy to think about without a mask at all. I'm glad that we don't have to wear one right now. It's nice to see your full face.
I know. Like as much as you can see the smiles through the masks, it doesn't compare to the pearly whites. So I
agree. Yes, for sure.
That it's like I think it's like an interesting study of psychology for all of us, how like things that back in February, March, April we could never imagine, like the mask or you're not shaking, any interaction, shaking somebody's hand or giving that hug when you haven't seen somebody in a while. It's like those are things that like of course we want them to come back, but it's like we have the ability to adapt. Like it's pretty insane the way that we're able to adjust and adapt, and mentally and physically, in the things that we, the ways that we behave.
Yes, that is true. I started my new job, and so meeting all of my new coworkers and my new manager and boss and everything, it was so weird not to just say like, "Hi, nice to meet you," or go in for the hug first time because we're in South. And it's just, it is very weird. It takes you back a little bit and be like, "Oh, just kidding, air bump, I guess."
Right. Air five.
Yeah. Yep.
Very different. Definitely. Well, one of the other things I wanted to ask you too, from what you were talking about earlier, is kind of you recently, or I saw you post that you follow this Instagram account that shares like how to have conversations with kids, like like where they're having feelings and I thought that was amazing. I don't have kids, but I'm following them and taking notes because I think it's so cool. And if you tell the Pod Squad about that account, and is that like a lot of kind of that child life, conversational stuff that you teach now, or that you're kind of involved with?
Yeah, for sure. The Instagram is Big Little Feelings. And so they post all about how to communicate with your toddler, which personally for me in the hospital setting, toddler was the most challenging age for me. I think toddlers are so cute. The stuff that they say, all of the milestones that they're meeting are wonderful. But trying to educate a toddler in the hospital setting and reason with them is just very challenging. And also that developmental age, they think that the hospital, they view it as punishment. And so it's really hard to get them to see and gain trust in us and get them to see that the doctors are there to help make their body feel better. But that Instagram I started following, and they are just inspirational. First of all, they post tons of great content about what to say when your toddler has a meltdown in the grocery store because you won't buy them a piece of candy, just anything and everything. On their Instagram, they have different it's like coursework kind of, and so you can sign up for the different classes and they'll teach you certain things, from picky eating to bedwetting to not sleeping through the night. And so since they use so much stuff that we use in the child life world, like limit setting, offering choices to allow for control, validating feelings, I messaged them and I was like, oh my gosh, have y'all heard of a child life specialist before? A lot of y'all's theories and implementation that you provide is similar to what we do. And they messaged back and I was like fangirling, like, and they said, yes, they had, one of their daughters had a medical procedure and they had a child life specialist, and they were like, we love child life. And so I think it was really cool to see. Also, their following is crazy high. And so I think it was really cool to see how many people want to learn those techniques and skills and provide that to their children also. But yes, I agree. They're a top follow for me as well on Instagram.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, just like the psychology, and it even the way that they approach things. I'm like, ooh, would this work on my adult learners? Because it's like we still have some of those, those tendencies that maybe some of the things we were told when we grew up, and it's like now we believe that as an adult, and it's really cool to see the psychology behind that.
Yeah, they do a lot of emotional regulation, and that it's okay to not be okay. I loved their post about how when your toddler is having a meltdown, crying, saying no to everything, a normal response to that is for a parent to get upset. But parents, I'm not a parent, but me as an adult, I have those days too. And, there's nobody here to get upset with me. But if somebody was, then that would make my day even harder. And so they're like, why would you do that to a toddler? So they put a lot of things that are into perspective that I'm like, that makes so much sense. So yeah, they're a really good follow. I agree.
That's awesome. Got it.
Yes, Big Little Feelings. That's right.
Thanks. Cool. That's awesome. All right, Keeley, I'm going to get us into a little rapid fire question round in a second here. But before we do that, is there anything that we didn't touch on about your experience in child life or your experience this year that you wanted to emphasize or touch on? I think we had some good combo to kind of paint some of that out, but wanted to give you the
Yeah. I think so at the end of the year, I like to kind of just reflect and see, what all success challenges I've had. And I've seen a lot of posts that it's like 2020, worst year ever, or even the Christmas ornament with 2020 being thrown in the fire. And I was kind of reflecting on my own feelings with that because in 2019, I thought 2020 would be best year ever. I get married and I have this awesome husband. We're going to go on a wonderful honeymoon. But a lot of, my ideas didn't happen. And even though they didn't happen how I envisioned, they happened how they were supposed to. And so I think that as I continue reflecting on the year, I need to be more mindful of that there was still a lot of joy in the year. And just take time to make sure that I appreciate the things that did go well instead of focusing on all of the negative.
You're gonna make me cry. That's so beautiful. Oh, I think that I couldn't agree more just about that reflection time. Like we all need that time to reflect and to look back on the year. And yes, our first instinct might be like, oh, like cannot wait for it to be next year, or what a crapshoot this year was. It didn't go according to plan. But I think that your emphasis is on the things that everything went according to his plan, or whatever greater power you believe in. I think that's a great way to put it. And I think that I think that too, your inspiration behind like pursuing a new job, and you put yourself out there, and you got this great job at your alma mater, right? You're back where your old stomping grounds, which is awesome. And I want us all to be inspired by things like that, to say what good can still come out of this year, right? Like it might be, you might see a funny meme and agree like, yeah, this year sucks. Let's move it all along. Like there all these things went wrong. What else could go wrong? Let's just kind of flip that calendar over. But what's going to change on January 1st? Like probably not a whole lot. We're still going to be wearing masks. We're still going to be, in this pandemic situation. And, if we focus on some of the things that we can control, and focus on reflecting on those things that did bring us joy and trying to manifest more of that, I think that when January 1 comes, we're going to be so equipped to say, all right, 2021, like what you got? Like last year might have kicked me around a little bit, but I'm here and I'm stronger actually because of it.
Well, it's definitely taught, I think, us as like just humans, that we can be flexible, we can adapt to change, and we can do hard things. And so that's going back to a lot of what us as child life specialists, we meet kids in their scariest moments and we teach them that they can do hard things. And I think this pandemic has taught us that we can do hard things. And even though it's really scary, we have the skills and the tools that we need to get through it.
That's a mic drop moment right there. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Keeley. That's a really great perspective, a really like healthy perspective to have on just your world, right? And know what's going on around you and reflecting in times like this.
Yeah, for sure.
You ready for a little rapid fire question round?
I'm going to get a sip of my drink and I'm ready.
I'm taking my sweater off. I'm getting hot.
I had to take off my headband real quick because Santa's legs were kind of going crazy.
I can't lie. He was distracting me a little bit in the beginning when my jingle bells are jingling. All right. So first question, a lot of the listeners of this podcast have a growth mindset. And I think it is undeniable that you certainly are striving to do just the same, right? Constantly growing, constantly learning, and acquiring new knowledge that's going to help you pursue your dreams and your passions. So what do you do to develop yourself? I know you mentioned you do some reflection at the end of the year. Is there, certain podcasts or books or kind of some regular things that you do to develop yourself?
I would say that I definitely rely on my friends to hold me accountable to help me develop better as a person and as a professional. I have a really close friend group, and so I think just having them keep myself in check and remind me that I can do better on certain things is probably my ultimate number one. I am a big fan of Jen Hatmaker. I don't know if you've heard of her before, but yes, an author. So she has a podcast and books that are written. It's a lot of just about loving yourself and knowing your worth. And she's a Christian author. So I resonate a lot with what she says, and she has sarcastic humor. And so that keeps me really engaged. So I love to listen to her and learn from her. Something recently that I decided to do was I deleted all social media except my Instagram. And so I don't know if I would consider this developing myself, but I realized that there was just a lot of stuff that was causing me worry or fear or just things that didn't bring me joy. And so just deleting it from my life was the best way for me to solve that problem. And I haven't looked back. I honestly thought I would be like, David, what's so-and-so posting on whatever app? And I haven't even given it two thoughts. And so that has given me more time for self-care and, decorating more Christmas trees. So it has been a great thing for sure.
Wow, I love that. That's really cool. And I like that your first mention was your friends. I haven't heard that one yet, but that's so true. Like having the people around you that are in support of your growth. Mm-hmm. I think that is really, really, really important. And your friend group is so cool. I'm just going to sound like I'm like gushing over your friends this whole podcast because I kind of am. But like, I love your friends because they remind me a lot of my friend group. It's like, if you guys like, it's like love each other hard, make it weird, like just have fun. Don't care about what anybody thinks, like from the outside looking in, like this group of weirdos. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
You got a problem with that?
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Very cool. And yes, Jen Hatmaker, definitely have stumbled into her podcast too. She's good.
Yes.
Awesome.
I love her.
Awesome. How about, are there any, actually, I'll go to this one next. Do you have like any type of morning routine? I've heard a lot lately about like before you log in or before you start checking your emails or before you go on social media, which it sounds like you've kind of cleaned that up just having Instagram. Do you have any sort of morning routine that you try to stick to get you ready for the day?
So before, when I was working at, my hospital job 8 to 5, I would, surprisingly enough, listen to Christmas music while I got ready because that's something that just brings me joy. And so it didn't matter if it was August, September, there was some kind of Spotify playlist playing that had Christmas music on. And so I would listen to that on my commute, and we had a long sky bridge that we had to walk in to work. And we did this thing called the grace walk. And so it's just giving yourself grace before you go to work. And so just allowing yourself to be present in the moment and, making sure that everything that is worrisome in your life is staying outside of the hospital doors. And so I've tried to carry that over into working from home because this is not at all how I thought, being a college instructor would be like. I thought I would be in the classroom, engaged with the students and meeting everybody. But since working from home, I've tried to do extra reflection in the morning, drinking a cup of coffee. There is still Christmas music playing, but just reflecting on the type of day that I want to have and getting in that right mindset. Definitely some days I'm not as good as others, but always just remembering that, there's always a new day. I can have a different mindset and get through the day because it's definitely different being by yourself and working from home and staring at the computer screen versus running around a busy hospital.
Definitely. Oh, I love that grace bridge. That is really cool. And the fact that you bring it to your new world, you still kind of create that visual bridge or imagine it right in front of you.
We did it leaving from work too. One of my managers really encouraged us to do that for just self-care and self-peace because, we always feel like there's more work to be done, no matter what your profession is. And so she would always encourage us to do the grace walk of leaving and reminding yourself of 3 things that you did good. And that's the only 3 things you think about. Because no matter what kid in room 12 you could have spent more time with, and so I think now being a professor, leaving the building, I will need to do that too, because there's always going to be some other student that could have had extra help or, some class that could have had more hands-on opportunities. So something that I'll carry on over for sure.
That's really cool. I'm curious if you had like any sort of similar practice, maybe like midday or throughout the day where you felt overwhelmed or felt stressed out. Did you have some sort of like, let me look out the window or like just something to kind of take you back and kind of refocus you in?
I keep talking about my friends, but I feel like at work we definitely had check-ins. We would text each other, even if we sent a silly GIF, they would be like, "Where are you? Meet me in the toy closet." And so there was always definitely safe spaces that we would kind of just take a breather. Daniel Tiger, I'm a big fan of the cartoon. He is Mr. Rogers' cartoon. And there's a saying on there, and it says, "When you're feeling mad and about to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4." And so sometimes I would just replay that in my head and just take a deep breath and give me 4 seconds to just be, and then carry on throughout the day. So I will definitely carry that on into the academic world too, because I'm sure there will be times that are overwhelming and challenging and make me want to roar.
Definitely. Oh, I like that little anecdote. I'm going to remember that. And it's just nice when you have like those experiences where you can bring them into a new setting. Like I think to softball a lot, like I had so many anecdotes for like, okay, I'm on the pitcher's mound, like turn around. You're going to look at that tree in dead center field. You're going to take a deep breath. Like you're going to forget where you are for a second, and then you're going to go do the dang thing. And it's like, why can't I do that, when I'm facilitating or when I'm on a stressful call? Like the same practices, I think, just reminding yourself of a way that you've maybe calmed yourself in a different setting that worked, and like, how can I recreate that here in this new setting? And it's just as important, even if you feel like your past job maybe was a little bit more severe than your present. I mean, it's so important to have like you be presently there for whoever you're serving at that time.
Yeah, for sure. One of my good friends, Candace, she does a lot of stuff with mindfulness. So if I'm ever feeling overwhelmed, she's a great person that I know that to go to, and she can engage in some kind of mindfulness opportunity for me, which really helps kind of center me and bring me back to the moment and be present. So it's really nice to have that too.
Oh, that's awesome. And she does a lot of like music therapy too, right?
Yes. Yep.
Well, I'm going to have to get her on the podcast. That sounds really
She would love that.
That'd be awesome. I'm slowly recruiting all your friends to be my friends, and then one of
they all love you. It would work out perfect.
All right. Next question for you, Keeley. Are there any binge-worthy shows or that you've been kind of watching through the pandemic? I always like to hear and share things that maybe we haven't heard of yet, because I'm sure a lot of us are burning through all of the streaming networks right now.
Yes, I love all of the streaming networks for sure. Before the pandemic, I wasn't a big TV person. This is embarrassing to say, but I feel like this is a safe space, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. There are a lot of movies I have not seen, like Harry Potter. I know. Star Wars.
Okay, I'm with you on that one.
What else? What is like another really big movie? I probably haven't seen it.
Like all the franchise, like Lord of the Rings and Star Trek and like all those.
I'm out. I haven't seen it. Name a Hallmark movie. I probably have, but all of those, when David and I first started dating, he was like, "Surely you've seen it." I'm like, "Nope. Haven't seen it. Nope. Next."
Add it to the list.
Yes. Since the pandemic, it has given me a lot of time to slow down and stream some TV shows. So, of course, a lot of Christmas shows I love. A new one that's out on Netflix is Midnight to Magnolia, and it is really good. It ends exactly the same how you think it would, but you got to watch it anyways. And then also the Christmas makeover show on Netflix is pretty good. The second episode is a Firehouse episode, and it just pulled at my heartstrings. I loved it so much. But other than Christmas shows, I loved the show Love on a Spectrum. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
No? Okay, it is on Netflix. I told, everybody at work that I knew, I was like, you have to watch the show. But it is about dating life for adults with autism. So it's set up like a reality show, and it just shows you the challenges that they have and how they overcome those challenges. And it was really great to watch and very insightful. So I really like, if you can't tell, feel good shows and shows that make my heart happy. So definitely those 3 shows, probably the top of the binge-worthy watching list. That's
cool. You got to fill your cup so you can go out and fill everybody else's. So you got to.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Fill the cup up with some joy. I love that. I'll have to put those on my list.
Yes, very good.
Okay. I'm going to throw in another question that I'm just curious, like, what's the most like festive thing that you've done? You're talking about like every question I've asked you somehow is a Christmas question, even if it's not. So like what I've seen, tell us a little bit about your tradition. You've got a song that you like to dance to, or you do some crazy stuff and I love it. Tell us about like how festive are we talking here? Like let's we're all safe. We're in a safe zone.
Yeah, that's right. So last year, Candace, the friend that I talked about with the mindfulness, she and I decided, I don't even really know how we decided, it just happened because, you know, Christmas is contagious, to film dancing videos of me dancing to different Christmas songs in different areas. Well, I, of course, was like, greatest thing ever, sign me up, I'm in. But then it kind of grew where we had to keep doing it because I was shocked by this. People wanted more content. So we gave people what they wanted. But there was videos of me dancing in Christmas attire, similar to like what I'm wearing in the middle of Lowe's in front of their Christmas stuff. We went to a brewery one time that was decked out in Christmas, and I'm dancing to different Christmas songs. We need to bring those back for sure.
Yeah.
Another festive thing that I think that I've done that was kind of over the top was for my unit. I worked on the gastrointestinal floor at the hospital, and, you know, COVID just had everybody feeling wah. And so I thought, well, what makes people smile? Christmas. So I dressed up in an inflatable snowman, and we had Christmas in July. I did it as a surprise for all of the nurses on the floor. They entered the break room. I was dressed up as a snowman. Some of the other support staff was there dressed up, and we had Christmas coloring sheets. We played Christmas music. We had one of the facility dogs come, and it was just a moment for all of us to kind of, you know, put all of our worries and stressors aside and just all be together like in a joyous, safely spaced area. But that was really fun. And then I got known as the inflatable snowman girl. So that was awesome. I loved it. That's better compliment. Yeah.
You're leaving your mark everywhere you go. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was really a lot of fun. I know I'm going to have to let Louisiana know that I am a Christmas gal for sure, because Louisiana Tech doesn't know what they're in for yet.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got some like tricks up your sleeve of how to do that in a virtual setting, right? We're all kind of being crafty right now.
Yes, I have decided to, since all of my classes are for child life students, I've decided to incorporate a class elf. So he is peeping, I think if you can see him in the tree.
Yeah.
Right there, yep. He's peeping around the corner, so he is making guest appearances in class every so often, and they're coming up with fun activities for him to do, and so I'm excited about that.
That's cool. I love it. Okay, last question for you here, Keeley.
Okay.
So, and we kind of just segued to that nicely as well. So, do you have any final advice for anybody that is struggling to find joy this holiday season? They're ready for it to be next year already. They're like, let's just skip this month. And we can't, because it's the best month. It's the most wonderful time of the year. How do we find that joy?
Listen to Christmas music, lots of it. But besides that, I think just what I said earlier is reflecting on the good. Maybe it was something small like, you know, slowing down and watching that Netflix series you've been putting off, or spending more time on Zoom with your grandparents. Whatever it was, there was a little piece of joy. You know, David and I joked because our honeymoon, we've had to postpone it 4 times now. And every single time we just joke and say, you know, oh, next time it'll work out. But something that we've done each time is we try to do something fun during that time, even if it's just go to Target. But spending that quality time together has, you know, made all the difference. So I think just trying to find the joy, realizing that you've probably slowed down a lot this year, you've taken time for yourself or time with other people, whether it's in person or virtual, there's at least a little ounce of good.
Absolutely. It's there. You got to look for it.
That's right. Yep. The joy is somewhere.
And if listening to some holiday music sparks it for you, it does for me. So definitely give that a try. I agree with that one.
I agree. Christmas Tree Farm by Taylor Swift or Cozy Little Christmas by Katy Perry does wonders for me when I'm having a bad day.
I haven't heard of those, but I'm obsessed with Hanson Snowed In.
Oh, yes, yes. That
And
is
I
a good
think
one.
like Shadaisy or Dixie Chicks have a really good one as well. So we gotta
Ooh, I'll
we
have to
gotta
look
swap
into-
some gems there.
Yes, for sure.
Uh, so good. Well, Keely, thank you so much. Is this your very first podcast?
It is, and I'm so excited. 1, it's my very first podcast. 2, it's about Christmas, and 3, it's with you. It's like the best of all the worlds put together.
Yay. No, I think that your outlook right now and the way that you're equipped through, your career and where you're positioned now, your insight is just, it's so golden for all of us to be able to hear just what your journey's been like this year and how you're able to position things, because you've had the experience where you're able to kind of reframe and also help others. And I think that that's really what this is all about too. It's like getting myself right, getting my mind right, and getting my my gears in order to be able to still have hopes and dreams and aspirations through this crazy year. But I think there's also power in igniting that in others. And I think that you bring that, and your friend, all of your friends in the Child Life group, you all have such a great ability to do that. And I want to, inspire our listeners not just to think about me, but how can I then bring this out of others? So I think that your insights today were just the ticket. So I so appreciate your time for being on this podcast.
Yes, thank you so much. This was so fun. I loved it. And for everybody listening, remember, your Christmas joy is contagious. So go spread it out.